Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat. I'm Joseph Ho in Whitehorse. We begin in the Yukon with ongoing coverage of the Heap leach failure at Victoria Gold's Eagle Mine. It's been nearly 2 months since the incident, which some call an unmitigated disaster. Since then, the company has been put in receivership. The corporate board has resigned and the CEO has been fired. But as Julian Green tells us, many people are still worried.
Trekking toward his family's trapline along the Stewart River. Steve Bike is after moose, but he's worried about the Eagle Gold Mine, the site of a catastrophic cyanide spill.
Whatever I'm eating in that area, I'm definitely going to have back of my mind.
If the water isn't clean, Bike says nothing is.
My heart is crying, I guess. It's crying for the land.
The Heap leach facility was being run by Victoria Gold. When it failed in late June, an estimated 300 million liters of cyanide solution spilled. Now it's in the groundwater and in Haggard Creek. Nearly 100 fish have been found dead in the waterway. Concerns about contamination aren't limited to the mine site. Haggard Creek flows here to the South McQuestion River.
Oh, it's the lifeblood of this whole land here.
Sylvia Frisch's house overlooks that river valley. Her family lives here year-round, harvesting and selling birch syrup.
So here's where we've tapped the tree in the past.
Frisch's home is the first downstream from the mine.
My business is entirely dependent on a functioning ecosystem, and the river is a big part of that. I don't believe that they'll be able to clean it up, honestly.
Elder Jimmy Johnny is worried his way of life is threatened.
To destroy a land where when Grandfather and I used to hunt, and it's very, very disturbing to me.
The Yukon's Minister of Mines says for now, local animals such as moose remain safe to eat. So are fish, except in Haggard Creek.
This is a catastrophic failure. We will continue to hustle to protect the environment as much as possible from the contaminated water.
The Yukon government has appointed a receiver to restore the site and install wells to prevent more cyanide from leaching into the groundwater, water that will eventually empty into the Yukon River. And with the Chinook salmon population in that drainage already plummeting, this northern Shoshone chief says there should be a territory-wide ban on heap leaching.
People are unsatisfied in the Yukon with heap leaching. It should be banned because it's causing ecocide.
Stryker has committed to a formal investigation into what caused the leach pad to fail. All the while, people like Steve Bike wait, hoping for the day when they no longer need to fear using the land and all that it provides. Julian Green, CBC News, Whitehorse.
It's a rainy day here in Whitehorse, but not as rainy as it was last Wednesday, August 14th. That day was the wettest day ever for the Yukon capital. The subarctic region is typically cold and dry, but in the next 30 years, researchers believe southern Yukon could move to a completely different climate category. Katrin Pilkington reports.
Yukon's chief meteorologist Mike Smith says climate models are showing a trend towards warmer, wetter weather.
We're getting localized heavy rainfall more frequently than we used to.
Climate zones are usually defined by precipitation, temperature, and vegetation. So what does it mean when those elements are in flux?
From a geographical point of view, it does change or shift the kind of boundaries or descriptions that we've used in describing the climate.
That's Dave Phillips, senior climatologist with Environment and Climate Change Canada. He says the country is warming faster than the global average and the territories faster still. That's changing vegetation, turning Arctic tundra to shrubland, white spruce forest to deciduous trees. It's also changing the weather.
Maybe 600 to 1,000 kilometers to the south, at that kind of climate now would be more indicative of what you would see in Whitehorse by the middle of the century.
That means Yukoners can probably expect more rain in the forecast. Katrin Pilkington, CBC News, Whitehorse.
Northwest Territories patients who need neurological care have been facing long wait times for treatment. About 1,000 patients require neurological care in the territory. Now, some are looking for solutions elsewhere. Nadir Hashmi has more.
For years, anyone who needed to see a neurologist in the NWT would be seen here at Stanton, either by a locum or by a doctor from the Alberta Neurologic Centre. But those doctors aren't coming to the NWT anymore. The contract between the territory and the clinic was cancelled in April, and now the wait is long.
Well, it's hard to get any answers whatsoever.
Edna is a long-time Yellowknife resident. She was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 26 years ago. We have changed her name for privacy reasons. Edna saw a neurologist regularly until December 2022 and has not had a follow-up since.
I couldn't get a hold of anybody, a general practitioner or my neurologist.
Edna says she's on a referral wait list with no idea when she'll actually get an appointment. Another patient in Hay River says she's been dealing with mobility issues for 3 years. She says she last saw a neurologist in Yellowknife over a year ago. But after lengthy wait times to get treatment, she went to Nicaragua last month to get help at her own expense.
So I went there for 2 months and got physiotherapy. I got to get reflexology, and I went from 90% in pain a day to down to maybe about 30-40% that I'm in pain.
In an email response, a spokesperson for NWT Health says help for urgent neurological care is available through hospitals in Edmonton. And since the ANC contract ended, NWT Health continues to provide locum-based physicians and the internal medicine program to provide neurology services. Nadir Hashmi, CBC News, Yellowknife.
The former director of Clyde River's Ely Suksivik Society has been found not guilty of sexual assault. Malcolm Ranta used to run the nonprofit that provides Inuit counseling and community wellness programs. Mahnur Mubarak reports.
Ranta was found not guilty in the second day of the trial proceedings. The Crown entered a proposal to acquit when it determined the burden of proof could not be met. That means the Crown could not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Ranta is guilty. The prosecutor says the cross-examination has been difficult for the victim and concluded it would be damaging for her to continue the trial. The victim was the only source of evidence for the prosecution. The victim's identity is protected under a publication ban. During the trial, the victim alleged sexual assault following an incident on January 9, 2021. But during the first day of trial, she said she had remembered the dates wrong and it could have been on December 22nd or 23rd of 2020. On day 2, after further questioning, she could not agree on a date. The victim confirmed under questioning that she exchanged flirty and friendly messages with Ranta following the alleged sexual assault. She also went on a skidoo ride with him and had another sexual encounter. She testified that the continued engagement with Ranta stemmed from the fact that she hadn't realized she had not provided consent to Ranta during the date associated with the charge. Defense lawyer Solomon Friedman said Ranta was willing and ready to testify had the trial continued. He added it has been extremely difficult for him to live with the stigma of the sexual assault charge. Mahnur Mubarak, CBC News, Iqaluit.
A new report is painting a clearer picture of Canada's wildfire season last year. The report was published today in Nature Communications. It examines the factors behind extreme fire weather and what it led to. Scientists have also now used more precise tools to map the land that burned last year. The lead author says the biggest fire of the year was partly in the Northwest Territories. It was nearly twice the size of Prince Edward Island.
We had one fire, which was actually on the border of British Columbia, Northwest Territories, and Alberta. That was started as three fires that joined, and ultimately the resulting fire was over 1 million hectares. So 1 million hectares is 10,000 square kilometers. So it was a very, very large fire. And in fact, that's one of the largest fires we have on record.
Jane says the report is written in accessible language, so he hopes people read it and see that climate change, without question, played a role in last year's extreme fire weather. He also hopes people understand the same situation is possible again as the climate continues to warm. It's a busy time in Delaunay, and not because of the nearby wildfire and evacuation notice issued yesterday. It's busy because Sportsnet was in the Sawtooth community this morning. Crews were filming at the Jerry Vitale Memorial Arena. People were invited to be part of a Quaker Oats commercial that will air on the Sports Network channel. As for the evacuation notice, Chief Danny Gaudette says it's purely precautionary. There is a fire burning about 20 kilometers away. It's not currently a threat, but Gaudette says they want to be prepared. NWT Fire says rain today and tomorrow should help the situation.
Does public transit really need more police officers? And so this is it.
Welcome to the Greenbelt.
It is now believed that Titan was destroyed.
It makes sense that they get a larger share, or does it?
All of this, just single detached homes.
Yes.
What do we know? How is that even possible? Well, with a little bit of help, I think we can explain it.
About that with Andrew Chang. Watch free on CBC Gem.
I'm such a fan of this show.
Listen to the podcast, Q with Tom Power.
The story itself is so unbelievable.
The industry wasn't set up for me to thrive in.
The presence I feel now is not something that I believed to be possible in the past.
So many people thought I couldn't do it. They doubted me.
Felt like I ripped my whole heart out.
I didn't realize how formative 25 to 30 would be.
I have to kind of repress my own self-doubt.
You're one of my favorite interviewers, so I was pumped.
Get out of here.
Q with Tom Power. Available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is unbelievable.
The heart and soul of any city is best served on a plate.
Très bon, merci.
I have some women to tell you about. You don't know them, but you will.
Thank you for choosing Plan B.
Tell me what I need to do to save my family.
Please enter your date of travel.
I can't do this anymore.
If you could go back, change things, would you do it?
This is the CFBC's largest attachment. Congratulations on making the cut.
We're coming for you and everyone like you.
This job has one rule: follow orders. People dream of seeing the world, but I'm here to eat it. I genuinely love you. I'm here to show you the 12 dishes that define the city.
Très bon, merci.
There won't be any direct flights from Nuuk, Greenland to Iqaluit for another 2 weeks. Greenland Airport says that's because of security issues detected last week. Some include doors into restricted areas being left unlocked. Only international flights out of Greenland's capital are affected. Greenland airports had expected the situation to be resolved today. That's what Lakaluk Williamson Bathory heard as well. She was supposed to have returned to Iqaluit last week, the day the suspension was announced. But she decided to stay with her daughter in Nuuk for another week to avoid a lengthy detour.
It was a 4-day journey crossing the ocean twice through parts of Denmark and Canada where it's very hot and we have clothing for Arctic summer. So we decided that was out of the question. It was too much. And as it turns out, it was too much. I know that a number of the people I would have traveled with caught COVID and are laid up in Iqaluit now.
That 4-day detour has now changed. Air Greenland says passengers will be flown to another domestic airport before Iqaluit. Federal Defense Minister Bill Blair has wrapped up a busy trip to Inuvik, Northwest Territories. He was in town for 3 days, and he says it was his first trip north of the Arctic Circle. Blair met with community groups and local leaders. He also announced an increased military presence in the Beaufort Delta.
One of the reasons we talk about the development of these northern operational support hubs that's just an acknowledgement that the Canadian Armed Forces has to be a more persistent, reliable presence in the Arctic. It means being able to have more people up here.
Today, Blair toured the airport, the new military hangar, and the satellite station. He says more infrastructure will build northern security and says there will soon be more satellite dish stations near Inuvik. Blair also spoke about building a new, bigger, forward operating location for the military. New military helicopters were also announced, which will also be used for search and rescue operations. A search is underway for a young woman in Arviat after a truck went into the ocean. Mayor Joseph Ikata Jr. says the community is searching for his daughter. Nunavut Emergency Management is also involved. A journey across the Yukon to honor a brother lost and to raise awareness of suicide and substance use has ended. The One Step, One Journey walk arrived in Whitehorse on Friday. It started in Mayo on July 18th as a way to honor Nacho Nyack Dun citizen Ian Bike. He died by suicide in June. His brother Terrence started the walk, and dozens joined him along the way, including his cousin.
There's a lot of grief hanging over the Yukon, and I just thought this movement that Terrence was starting was important to give him as much support as I could, and I just thought me physically walking and giving him support that way was important, and then obviously my role kind of evolved as it went along, but yeah, it's just supporting and creating community in the Yukon.
Walkers also held hands, shared a prayer. They paid tribute not just to Ian Bike, but all who have been lost. One organizer explains why this walk was so important to her.
Because we've lost so many people. Because it is the grief that the Yukon is feeling. You know, we need to do something about what is happening in terms of destigmatizing drugs, alcohol, and mental health. We have to stop thinking that it is something that is somebody else's problem or somebody else's, you know, or walking past people. We need to stop as a whole, as a community as a whole of the Yukon.
Strand says people cried and laughed throughout the walk. She says communities were grateful when walkers arrived. She says it sparked many conversations about destigmatizing addiction and mental health. Strand says she hopes those conversations will continue. A teacher shortage has forced Nunavut's school board to cancel teaching periods, combine classes, and delay the school year for some students. Students have started returning to class at the Kativik School Board in Nunavut. However, schools in the region are short 71 teachers. The school board's director general says suspending or canceling some classes cannot be avoided. Well, time waits for no one, and it's nearly run out on summer. In Whitehorse, school starts on Tuesday, and on that day, the doors will open for the first time at Whistlebend Elementary. This is the city's first elementary school to be built in more than 2 decades. The building cost about $43 million, and it will feature community spaces like gyms and meeting rooms. The school's principal says he's looking forward to it all.
It's probably the only chance I'll have to open a brand new school, chance to hire all the staff and work with my VP to build a school community from the ground up. That's the school culture and all of that. I'm excited about that, to see how excited people are for a brand new school.
The school has space for 425 students. At least 203 people have enrolled. Cressman says they still need to hire 2 teachers and a First Nations language teacher. People are starting to arrive in Whitehorse for 2 big fiddle events this week. The Pan-Northern Youth Fiddle Summit starts tomorrow. It gathers youth from across all 3 territories and some provinces. The Yukon is also hosting the Canadian Grand Masters Fiddling Competition. This is the first time the competition has come north. The CBC's Megan Roberts is here in Whitehorse to cover these events. Today, she learned more about the awards that will be given out and why they're so special.
I'm in Lumel Studios in Whitehorse. This is a place where beautiful things are made. There's a lot of artistry here. So it's fitting that this is also where the trophies for the competitors in the Grand Masters Fiddling Championship were created.
Just the right heat and just the right speed at this. Just an absolute honor because we've had the young fiddlers here in the past numerous times to just be making music in here. So when we were asked to create the awards, the trophies, it was a real honor. I had to come up with a way to make every award similar. And so then I thought, what about a heart? Because if you turn a heart upside down, you have the base, and then you have something that you can pull. And as glass blowers, we happen to have the tools to do that as well. So, hot glass goes in here. You dip it out. It's heart-shaped. You heat it. You grab the end, squeeze the end with your diamond shears, and slowly pull. If you pull too fast, it would spaghetti string it. We don't want strings. And so you have to just pull just at the right consistency. And then another amazing handy tool is a kitchen butter knife. And for any fine tuning, I don't even know what it's called. That beautiful round groove that's in both sides of a fiddle, that's the tool. My favorite tool, a butter knife. A butter knife.
And what was the process like for you doing all of those awards? How did you feel when you were doing them?
Well, like music. Heartfelt music. I even got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to start them, because it's also truly an exciting process to make all of these. And you can say I'm OCD, but creating multiples of the same thing and yet still having to relate to that movement of glass and how it flows, pretty exciting. But I didn't do them alone either. This takes at least 2 people to do. So over more than 2 days, we worked on all the awards and all the cups.
The inspiration for the trophies came from a really special, meaningful place. There's a person who works here from Inuvik who has a tattoo, and that tattoo honors her late grandfather, the person who raised her, who was a musician. So what better inspiration for trophies for musicians than that tattoo?
Well, Lou saw my tattoo one day, which is the one here on my arm. Yeah, she's seen it, and then she mentioned that you guys were gonna have trophies of them, and she asked if she can use my tattoo. So I said that she can. I was gonna be a part of it, but then I wasn't in work. And the reason I have my tattoo is in memory of my dad. My dad, his name is James Rogers. He was in an old-time band almost all of his life, his whole life. And he passed away in 2016, and I got this tattoo maybe a year ago now. Yeah, so I got it in memory of him. He does play all the fiddles. I mean, instruments, sorry, but fiddle is one of his instruments. He raised me since I was a little girl. Yeah, so we're really close. He's my dada, so he's my grandpa, but he's my dad. Yeah, so we're really close. We were really close my whole life. Other than being in a band, he was always out on the land. Yeah, so he grew up out on the land, hunting and everything like that. So yeah, I know, yeah, everything about him.
Really special person.
Yeah.
And what do you think he would think of these pieces of art that are ultimately inspired by him?
I think he would like it too. Yeah.
There's a real sense of community amongst fiddlers, especially here in the north, which is what makes it so special to have young fiddlers coming from all 3 territories to play together and learn together. We spoke with 2 young Yukon fiddlers about what they love about the instrument and what they're looking forward to this week.
My favorite part about fiddling is being able to kind of play together as a community and play for the community too. So for example, every week we busk at the market, the Fireweed Market here in Whitehorse, and that's a great way to give back to the community. We get to play with Dennis Shorty and a bunch of people across the Yukon, and yeah, it's a really great part about fiddling.
I love how fiddling can bring the community together with barn dances, shows, and just like jams.
Well, I'm really excited to be able to meet people from across the north, from Nunavut, Northwest Territories. There's lots of groups coming down here, so I'm really excited to meet them.
I'm so excited to see all of the Canadian Northern fiddlers join in and all play together on stage, and I think it will be really cool and sound amazing.
We're so excited to be in Whitehorse for the Pan-Northern Youth Fiddle Summit and for the Canadian Grand Masters Fiddling Competition, being held in the North for the very first time. Stay tuned to Northbeat for more coverage this week and into the next.
And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, head to cbc.ca/north. I'm Joseph Ho. Thank you for watching. Good night from Whitehorse.
Her particular skill set can be helpful to us.
She's a con artist.
Instead of using your talents for crime, you'll be playing on our team.
I'm a cop.
You're not a cop. You have a badge?
Not yet.
A gun?
Soon.
Not ever.
I need to get off that boat and back to being a full-time detective. And you need to stay out of prison. The best way we do that is to keep our heads down and do as we're told.
90,000.
90,000.
The department will cover it, right?
No, they won't.
We're not gonna be here forever, right? Makes me want to make some changes, maybe a big one.
Your family can't take much more.
Anyone in your life know you're doing that?
Never really a good time to stir the pot.
I did not know what my future would look like.
The industry wasn't set up for me to thrive in.
I didn't realize how formative 25 to 30 would be.
I was so excited when they said I got to do an interview with you.
Q with Tom Power. Available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Sipping on a bit of Henny. Can I get a little Remy? Feeling heavy. Chilling, but I'm feeling ready. Pulled up in a big old Chevy. Dance floor stops and me gal damn drops. Queen with the locks and the crown on top. Feet in a box, never sound on pots. If it ain't the Henny, give me crown on rocks.
People dream of seeing the world, but I'm here to eat it. I genuinely love you. I'm here to show you the 12 dishes that define the city.
Très bon, merci.
My dad was a railway porter. It was just about the only job a black man could get. But he had big plans for us. Music would be our ticket out of poverty. I knew we couldn't afford that piano, so I practiced twice as hard.
Nice, Daisy. Okay, Oscar, let's hear it.
Turns out, I wasn't half bad. Then I found jazz, or it found me. It wasn't all easy, though. I faced a lot of hate, but I found my stage. They call me the man with 4 hands. Well, I don't know about that, but let's see how far this ticket takes me.
From Montreal to Carnegie Hall and far beyond,
Oscar Peterson became one of the most recorded and celebrated jazz musicians of all time.